George Haymaker went from building restaurants to battling addiction, and at 52, he nearly lost it all. Rehab introduced him to a new path, neuroscience. And now he's a brain performance coach and founder of Brain Club, helping people rewire their minds, build new patterns, and discover just how changeable the brain really is. This episode of the Rebel Rebel is brought to you by my book, BrandJitsu. Most brands blend in. They don't mean to, but they do. After 25 years of helping people fix that, I wrote the playbook. It's called BrandJitsu, Move Your Brand from Meh to Memorable. It'll show you how to shape your story so it hits and sticks. Grab a copy at your favorite bookstore or head to brandjitsu.com. All right. Welcome to the Rebel Rebel. I'm your host, Michael Dargane, somewhere around the world. We're going to find out where I have with me George Haymaker. How the heck are you, sir?
I am fabulous here in Napa, California. It's a beautiful sunny day. And talking to you. What could be better?
Aw, I love California. Such good people.
I love the taxes, but the people are great. And the weather.
Yeah. Well, so let's catch us up so we have some context. What is it that you're up to these days, George? What does a typical George day look like?
Well, I'm looking at the brain, basically. I am what's called a neuroscience educator and brain performance coach. It's a long, complicated title, but all that really means is I help people look at and understand their brains better and teach them how they can take that knowledge and take command over their brains and improve, expand their intelligence, optimize their brain performance, shape their mental activity. The thing that we don't realize about the brain is that it's very changeable. It's a malleable organ. It was designed to change. It actually changes a little bit every day.
Wow.
But many of us think it's fixed and there's nothing we can kind of do about it. And we just kind of live with what's going on up there, but nothing could be further from the truth. And so I am here to try to encourage people to dig a little deeper and figure out what's possible.
I love it. Yeah, that is, it's so weird you don't think about it, but you should be thinking about it because that's what your brain does. It thinks about stuff.
It actually predicts. We can get into that a little bit more in a minute, but it's
sure.
It basically only does what we train it to do. So I'll leave it at that, and you can.
Okay,
a little teaser there.
All right, yeah, I can't wait. Now I want to know. But let's go back in time a little bit. And I don't know whether your formative years, did you always know you're going to be a brain guy? Was neuroscience like hot on your mind as a young lad?
No, I had no idea. What I wanted to be was a food and beverage guy. I moved around a lot, traveled a lot as a youngster. My dad was very successful, so he was moving us from city to city as he got promoted. And so by virtue of all that traveling, we got to eat in some restaurants and stay in hotels. And I don't know why, I just became very enamored with that. Yeah. And so I started cooking in restaurants in high school during the summers, and went to college and created my own kind of hotel restaurant program while I was in college. Wow. And ended up out of college going to work for a large hotel company on the food and beverage side. Did very well in that. And then I realized that I didn't like working for other people. So at the age of 30, I made a commitment that I would never work for anybody else again. And I became an entrepreneur. Didn't really even know what that meant. But from that point forward, for the next 35 years, I owned and built and operated and started various types of businesses in all different kinds of industries, some in restaurants, some not, as an entrepreneur. And so I had no idea that I was going to end up in neuroscience. It happened because I hit a hard bottom from addiction at the age of 52.
Oh my gosh.
I was taking about 50 pain pills a day and drinking 2 bottles of vodka. It got that bad.
Oh my good Lord.
And it was very progressive. It started in college, and I used substances to cope with unhelpful mental patterns, a ton of anxiety, some depression,
Right.
And it really came about because of how I was brought up. Also, some genetic predisposition to anxieties. Um, and I didn't know that that was abnormal. I just grew up with it. Again, some of it was environmental in terms of how I was brought up, my relationship with my parents and all that.
Yeah.
And so what happened at 52 is I ended up in rehab, sitting in this room, feeling like death warmed over, wondering how my life had ever gotten to that point. And, I had tried to kill myself at that point, and I was not in a good place.
Wow.
And at that point, you're lost, you're desperate, and you don't know what's next. Like, you have lived life a certain way, and in my case, 52 years, and like you're asking yourself, can I start over again? What does that even look like? Is it possible?
Yeah.
And that's what everybody in rehab is asking themselves. I've lived this way for this long. How am I ever going to live life differently? And what does that even look like? So, I ended up in AA out of rehab, and that AA was great as a place to get sober, but it wasn't enough for me to understand at a deeper level what was going on inside of me, how I had ended up that way, and what was change going to look like
Right.
inside me. And so one thing led to another, and I just started studying, reading a bunch of books on psychology and spirituality, and it led me to the brain, because that's where all of this stuff starts and ends. Frankly, it's where all of our lives start and end, because the brain runs everything.
Yeah.
And I just became fascinated with it, and the changes that have started to occur in my life were so dramatic and so transformational that I just fell in love with this idea of recovery through rewiring your brain. And I studied it more and more, and I now have decided that this is the direction I want the rest of my life to go, because I know it's possible now, and I know how much people can change if they choose to, and I want to help them do that. And so I bring brain science to people in an understandable way that they can get their arms around and use. Because if you don't know how the brain works, it's very hard to make change. Because the brain has very specific ways that it will accept change. And if you don't know that and don't know how it works, it's hard to get it implemented.
Wow.
And so I find it a very useful way, is to take people through some education, help them understand what's happening up here. Then all of a sudden they start to get clarity, things start to make sense. And then we start to lay in tools and strategies as to how to transition into a different place in their life.
Wild. It's so many questions pop into my, and I mean, I think that we're in this culture where we want these hacks and fast fixes.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that's not the way it works.
No. The brain works, brain change works through lots of repetition and lots of emotional salience, reward, which combine to create meaning in the brain. So the brain actually tags patterns or memories or things that we experience with special neurochemicals when we assign it importance. So when things are deeply meaningful to us, there are certain neurotransmitters that tag these experiences and make them stand out to the brain. They put asterisks next to them. And so when we try to change, or when we want to change, it's important that we understand that it's going to take some time. We don't end up the way that we are overnight. It's usually through years and years of habitually doing things the same way over and over. So that caused us to get to where we are.
Yeah.
So it's not going to change overnight. There are no such things as hacks. The brain doesn't work that way scientifically. So we have to be prepared to create a vision for where we're headed, and then start to practice being that vision, and do it over and over again, lots of times, and do it with meaning and purpose, which then tags these experiences as meaningful to us. and then the brain begins to understand where we're headed and begins to then, and I mentioned this word earlier, predict that we should start doing these new ways of being as opposed to the old ways. So I'll stop there and let you jump in if you want to. Keep going.
That's amazing. What's your favorite brain fact?
Oh boy. Well, there's just so many of them. Well, let's, one that runs right into my mind right away.
Yeah.
And that is the brain's primary job is not to make us happy. It's not to buy us a bigger home. It's to keep us alive. And so the brain is constantly looking around through our senses at the environment to determine whether what's happening in the moment is safe or threatening. And then it interprets that and and then makes predictions on what will happen next and what we should do about it. And so through this concept of prediction, it is always wanting to conserve resources. In other words, we start every day in the morning with a tank of resources that our brain is going to use like fuel.
Yeah.
And we spend it all day long. And the brain is always looking to create shortcuts in order to conserve those resources because it knows it has to work 24/7. And so the brain is always trying to conserve resources. So that's a fun fact, is that the brain's job is to keep us in survival by interpreting threatful situations, keeping us safe through them, and conserving resources in the process. So if you think just way back from our evolutionary days, before we had all these great things in our lives and we were cavemen, that's really what the world was all about. Stay alive, have babies, get food, get water, and huddle together in tribes so that we could protect each other against, the enemies that were all around us, like the dinosaurs. And so that's really where the brain started. And some of the higher order level thinking parts of the brain, prefrontal cortex, decision making, impulse control, evaluation, all the other things that we're blessed with today, started to develop way after the survival parts of the brain.
Wild. Oh, thank you for that. That's I love the education. Going back to food and beverage, just to a sideways thing. What's your favorite meal to make? What's your thing? Like, do you still cook?
Yeah. I love to work on the stove with the flame and the sauteing of different proteins, making sauces. I guess that would be my favorite.
Yeah.
Today, though, I eat for my brain. And so that's another major transformation that's occurred in me is I used to eat for comfort. Like I would get stressed and I would just start throwing stuff down. I would eat until I was stuffed to the gills just to get some dopamine released in my system so that I could feel better, relieve my anxiety. Now I eat completely differently. So I just love a clean meal now. I love to drink spinach juice. I love my protein shake in the morning. And so my refrigerator looks completely different than it used to. Now it's got a bunch of whole foods in it. I don't eat anything packaged. I don't eat anything processed. And so I'm just always grabbing grapes or nuts or, and I eat at specific times of the day. I eat specific things. I know that my brain needs protein at different intervals all day long because the brain operates on protein. And so I just eat strategically now, completely different in order to maximize and optimize brain performance.
Wow. That's really, really cool. It must help because I mean the climate that you're in, there are a lot of fresh fruits around.
Yeah.
So that's got to be helpful as well. Um, boy, what do you do for you? Like what's the guilty pleasure for George? What fills your bucket?
Yeah. So what fills my bucket is just being on a path of being the best version of myself.
That's cool.
So I don't mean to be boring with the answer, but I was an addict and I was really good at it, meaning I can go bad places and never get enough of anything. So I know that about myself. And so that was my identity. And I've worked very hard at shifting my identity into a preferred version of myself. And now I'm completely motivated by that. And so I'm very structured oriented. I need I need to do the same things every day that make me happy in order to stay on this path. And I don't really care much to deviate. So a really wild, uh, selfish thing I might do for myself is go to the gym and work out for 2 hours.
Right.
I love the gym. It's my outlet. I love my two puppies. I experience a lot of life with them. They teach me a lot. I love working and learning more about brain science. Um, that's really all I do, and spend time with my wife. Um, every day looks like that, and I love it. So I don't see the need to do anything different.
That's amazing. Tell me about Brain Club.
Yeah, so I started my business working with people one on one, and I have been in a lot of other businesses, but never coaching or anything like this. And so I've been learning, like, what is it? What's my niche? Like, how is it that I want to go to market? And so I started pursuing people one on one through LinkedIn. And, you know, the issue with that is you have to kind of find people at the right moments of their life when they want to change, they're ready to change, they need to change, something like that.
Yeah.
And so you're just like hoping to catch someone at the right moment. And then I started to think to myself, well, this is getting tiring and exhausting. Like, I'm spending way too much time marketing, not enough time coaching. And so I said, well, why don't I do something group oriented? And instead of like positioning it around change where people interpret that as they need to be fixed, why not just focus on educating people about their brains and how it works? And then they can figure out what within them that they would like to enhance or improve. So this isn't, and I want to make this clear to everyone, like the brain is exactly like your body. And so we all know that in order to, we've all experienced very broad ranges of physical performance, right? We've all been our worst shape of our lives. We've been in the best shape of our lives and everywhere in between. And that is a broad spectrum.
Yeah.
And so the same exists for brain performance. People seem to think that this organ is fixed, that we're born with what we're born with in terms of a level of intelligence or certain like thought patterns or emotional patterns or levels of energy or focus. Like none of that is true. All of it is as trainable as the body is. And so it's when people say like, well, your brain's a muscle, it's not actually a muscle, but it behaves like a muscle. So the neurons in the brain cells are very much like muscle fibers in the sense that if you work them out, they will respond and they will get better. And so that's what I want to do is to take this stigma out of partnering with your brain, learning more about it, because isn't it true that your brain is the primary determinant in how successful you're going to be in life and how much happiness you're going to have?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So then, if it in fact it is trainable and you can improve it like you can your body, why wouldn't you look into doing that so that you can become more successful and happier and more fulfilled?
Right.
And so there's just this thing that we all go to the gym and are willing to accept the fact that we have to work out in order to look the way we want to look, feel the way we want to feel, be as strong as we want to be, and or learn a special athletic skill. But for some reason, we don't even consider that we should do this with our brains. And that's what I'm really trying to put out there is that we should be doing this. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, there's something wrong with not doing it. You're not being fixed. You're just enhancing performance.
Yeah.
And so I want to bring people together in a group setting called the Brain Club that allows them to come in at a, quite a low cost and experience the education. There's different levels of membership. There's a base level where it's just education, and then there's slightly elevated levels where you can work with me one-on-one and have unlimited messaging if you want to like really accelerate your progress.
Yeah.
But so it's just a community of like-minded professionals where we all get together, people that are interested in looking into this and understanding this is the most important organ in their body and what they can do to make it better. So the Brain Club is launching in the next week, and it's a place for people to come, and it's like I call it a gym membership for your brain. So basically, you're going to the gym for your brain.
Love it. Where do people find out about it?
So my website is being rebuilt. It'll be up in the next week. And I can also put it in the chat in terms of the actual landing page for the Brain Club.
Oh, sure.
But my website is georgehaymaker.com. They would find out information about it there. Or I'll put the landing page up in the chat if that's what you want me to do.
Oh, that's fine. We track it down, but
okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure it gets into the show notes so people can find it easily.
Very good. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like that you have got, some different levels where people can try it out and, start understanding it better. It's really smart.
Yeah. To that point, they just don't know what they don't know yet. And so their willingness to, I recognize that, for people to want to come in and work with me one-on-one, that might be a little aggressive at first. And so maybe they just want to come in, dip their toe in the shallow end of the pool and just experiment a little bit with what it is that this guy's talking about, and see what's in it for them. And so I assure you that you are going to be pleasantly surprised and amazed at what's possible once you start heading down this path, because it works.
Amazing. I will check it out. Do you read a lot of books?
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of stuff about neuroscience in different ways. Websites that I know about, articles, research. That's primarily how I get most of my knowledge. Also, through my coursework, my accreditations. I have a mentor that I work with. So,
that's really cool. I guess how important is mentorship in your world?
Well, I think it's very important in terms of what I do and with working with people, because it's one thing to read about this stuff, but it's another thing to actually break it down in a way that somebody's going to understand it and be able to put to use. Also, I haven't just read about this stuff. I've actually done the work myself. Like I was a mess. And so it's not like I haven't tried any of this stuff. And a lot of people, I think, want to know that whoever it is that they're working with has been down this road before and can relate to them. The other thing that I bring is a ton of professional work experience. Like I've been an entrepreneur. I've built and led companies. So these people that come into the Brain Club, it's not like I can't relate. It's not like I'm an academic that's never set foot in the business world.
Right.
And so I've been a mess with stress. I've felt the pressure. I've collateralized my home to get a small business loan. So I've felt all the pressure.
Yeah.
I've not been able to make payroll. So I relate to what everybody else is going through out there in the world in terms of the pressures they're feeling, or maybe they're between jobs and they're freaked out about getting another one. And so all of these mental patterns that people experience, I've experienced them myself. And so it's helpful that I can relate and mentor them through these transitional processes that they're going to go through, because I have compassion and empathy for what they're experiencing, but then I also know what the roadmap is.
Right. Wow. What have your dogs taught you?
More than I've taught them. So um, they help keep my heart open every day. They show me how to love unconditionally. Um, we as humans, I think, can get a little conditional with how we feel about things. We carry resentments. Animals don't.
Yeah.
Forgiveness, um, empathy, putting others before ourselves, living in the present. Um, that's one of the big things that humans struggle with is um, reliving the past. And that's what our mental patterns are built on is our past experiences,
Right.
or we ruminate about the future. And so that's a lot of what mental friction we experience is, you know, all the resentments we have about the past and regrets and then, worrying about the future. What don't I have? What, you know, why is what I have not enough? And, what's going to happen if this happens? And so all of that um, causes a great deal of mental friction that we experience, and we don't know why it's happening or how to navigate out of it.
Yeah.
And so animals, I think, just um, help me with so much, just being human in the way that I want to be human,
Yeah.
and they help keep me in line with my values.
Love that answer. Thank you. You've given so much great insight and things to think about, and sometimes reluctant to ask for more, but I'm going to. There's these people in the world. I call them rebels in waiting, and they are, maybe about to take that next step, or maybe they're at their bottom. That's germane to this conversation, or they've stepped out on a ledge. And what would be the best advice you would give them to help them through that?
Yeah. So the empathy and compassion I have is for people that are somewhere in that on that spectrum, but things haven't gotten bad enough yet for them to have to change. And so that's really the challenge here is that the brain resists change, which is why we resist change, because it doesn't understand what that other future holds. And so that's why we are reluctant to change, is because the brain is resisting it, because it, again, is responsible for keeping us alive, and it doesn't know what it doesn't know. And it's scared of what it doesn't know.
Right.
And because it doesn't know if it's threatening or not. And it does know the past. Even if you are living a life that is unhelpful and full of consequences, and unpleasant, like I was, you still resist change because your brain knows that it has somehow kept you alive through all of that thick and thin.
Uh-huh.
And so it believes that it can keep doing the same thing and keep you alive. It knows the past, but it doesn't know the future. And so that is what is actually happening in our brain and why we are resistant to change. So that's why it takes, meatheads like me, to do 50 pain pills a day and drink 2 bottles of vodka and not be able to sleep more than 2 hours without having to use more in order to keep the withdrawals at bay. It took me that extreme in order to have to change. So it wasn't even about wanting to or feeling like I should, because I had felt that way many years leading up to it. It was having to change. And so I feel bad for people that are in that middle area where things aren't bad enough yet,
Yeah.
that they feel like they can still somehow figure it out. And so that's the thing that, you know, it's, far be it for me to tell people where they're headed in their lives, but at least on my path, I knew there is no good that was ever going to come from the path I was on. So it's a matter of, do you wait for more and more consequences to pile up? Some of them can be really bad. Or do you say, enough is enough? This is not who I want to be. And the way that the acid test I always ask is, if you were to die tomorrow, would you be able to be on your deathbed and be okay with how you're leaving the world, with what you've done in your life, who you have become, and how you're leaving everything behind. And if the answer is no, then, maybe that is enough to scare you into a place that, because we all know how fragile life is and how quickly it can change and end and all the rest.
Yeah.
So, we, at some point, we have to decide that enough is enough. And is it going to be now, or is it going to be when maybe things have gotten too far out of hand?
Love that. This has been an extraordinary conversation, George. I can't wait to get my brain on Brain Club. I can't wait to learn more about that. So check out georgehaymaker.com. Stay up to date with that. And this has just been lovely, George. Thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Hey, if you're an artist, scientist, entrepreneur, or business owner who wants a smooth and proven method to find, shape, and share your story with the world, head on over to BrandJitsu.com and order a copy of my book, BrandJitsu, Move Your Brand from Meh to Memorable. I've been your host, Michael Dargy, and this has been the RebelRebel podcast. It's a podcast for creative rebels and entrepreneurs all over the world. And hey, if you're a rebel or you know a rebel, head on over to the RebelRebelPodcast.com and fill out the guest request form. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.